Good morning, friends. Chaliye, let's begin with a quick chanting of Om thrice, if that's okay. Let's close our eyes for a bit. Om. Confirm if I'm audible and visible. Online friends. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And yesterday, I think we had some issues with the video. Now I think it's better. Chaliye. So we now begin with a quick recap of whatever we had discussed yesterday. Of course, I'll not recap the pedagogy. We'll talk about what substantive things we had discussed about the discipline of sociology. So we had discussed that sociology, a very brief cursory introduction to the discipline, and we had discussed that sociology is the study of what? Absolutely, it is the study of society. And who had coined the term sociology? Auguste Comte, who is regarded as the father of sociology, right? And sociology as a discipline is engaged in the study of what, Bitya? Sociology studies what all things? Social relationships, absolutely. The discipline of sociology studies social relationships. Give me some examples of social relationships. Were you absent yesterday? You were. Okay, then any social relationships of the teacher to student relationship? Very good. Employer-employee relationship, which is the closest relationship you would say for to your family members? Absolutely. Great. So we study various social relationships. What else do we study? Let her. You won't let her? Okay. So the question is, what else do we study in sociology apart from social relationships? We study various social groups. Absolutely. For example, tell me some social group. Okay, these are kinds of social groups. Okay, can you give me examples of social groups? You're absolutely right. These are kinds of social groups, but examples of social groups, if you could share. Family, friends, absolutely. My religious community, my caste, these are all social groupings. Hai na? And we also study what else? How many of you revised when you went back home? Like before today's class? So tell me, what else? Social institutions. Please revise for your own sake. It won't take, how much time did it take you? Like to revise whatever we discussed? 15 minutes, yeah. That's all it would take you, beta. Social institutions. We study social institutions. And what are social institutions, Bitya? Sorry? Recurrent and patterned social, sets of recurrent and patterned social relationships. But not just one relationship, it will be a combination of related social relationships, right? Absolutely. So social institutions like, no, that's not what we imply here when we say social relationships. We don't mean NGOs or self-help groups. That is not what we mean by social institutions. What are social institutions? Examples? Religion. Not religious. Arya Samaj is not a social institution. Religions are social institutions. So religion is a social institution. What else? Family is an important social institution. So some of the major social institutions are family, religion. What else? The economy, absolutely. The political system, media, and something what we call social stratification. और हम एक भूल ही गए जिसका मैं और आप एक अभिन्न अंग हैं, the education system. These are the major social institutions, right? What do we mean by, now all the other terms are like we know of, perhaps except for social stratification, right? What does social stratification mean? In very simple terms, okay, or in very loose terms, should I say, it means a system of social inequality. System of social inequality. We will refine our understanding of social stratification when we study that topic. But to begin with, for now, we can say it is a system of social inequality. What do you mean by the word strata? Have you heard this anywhere else in any other context? Forget sociology. Layers. कहाँ सुना है हमने? Geography में, है ना? You have strata of rocks placed one upon another, sedimentary rocks or something, right? So strata means layers. Social stratification means when it is like layers upon layers are placed in society. Okay, so different social groups, when they are arranged hierarchically, we call it a system of social stratification. Okay, consider it synonymous with, for now, social inequality. For example, one type of social inequality or stratification which is present universally in nearly all societies is classes. Simply, friends, in all societies we have some people who are rich, some who are poor, and some who are middle class. So this differentiation of the members of the society in terms of the economic wealth is यूनिवर्सल. हर समाज में अमीर, गरीब, मिडिल क्लास प्रकार के लोग होते हैं. ठीक है? So class is a form of social stratification. Can you think of any system of social stratification which is probably uniquely present in Indian society? Caste, right? So अमीर गरीब आपको हर समाज में मिलेंगे, पर ब्राह्मण, क्षत्रिय, वैश्य और शूद्र आपको भारतीय समाज में केवल मिलेंगे. Clear? Any other system of stratification we can think of? Gender as a system of stratification. So what is that hierarchy? It is a hierarchical system. Like if we say upper class, middle class, lower class, we mean upper class are above the middle class, who are above the lower class. When we say Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, we mean Brahmins are at the top and so on. So how is this gender-based stratification? So men are in a superior and dominant position vis-a-vis women. Is it a India-specific stratification or is it a universal type? What's your gut feel? Even in the West, do we have patriarchy or male dominance? Even in advanced, Western, developed societies? Yes, we do. Though its expressions, manifestations may differ, but it clearly does exist, and we'll discuss that. Okay? Any other system of stratification you can think of? Like caste is very important in India. There is another system of stratification which is of immense importance in some of the Western countries, particularly say like the United States of America. Race. Race is another form of stratification. And how do you place that? I mean, what is that hierarchy? Whites over blacks, or if you want it broader, non-whites, right? Which would include Hispanics and this and that, apart from the blacks. Okay. So these are all systems of stratification or simply social inequality. This is also a social institution. Okay? These social institutions are different parts of the society. Clear? So we study various social relationships, social groups, social institutions, and social processes. We study various social processes. What does the word process indicate? Vidya? Something, okay, you don't use the word process to explain process, but that something is going on, something is happening. For example, industrialization, urbanization, Vidya, globalization, commercialization, liberalization, nuclearization of the family, and most importantly, etc. Which is like an all-encompassing conclusive term. So we study various social processes. Or if we have to paraphrase Sri Auguste Comte, sociology is the study of, brother, social statics and social dynamics. Arthat, we study both how continuity is maintained in society and also how changes take place in society. This is what we had covered yesterday. Theek? Any doubts? Not about the pedagogy, etc. I think we did that to death anyways. About the discussion or regarding, and also, let's confine for now to what has been already discussed, like not something you may have read, or so don't ask me what is Sanskritization or this or that. I mean, then there'll be no structure to our classes, right? Any doubts to what has been discussed till now? Any doubts online or offline, friends? Palak is asking, anyone tell me notes kab milenge? My first class. So notes, Palak, you will like keep getting every now and then. There will be running notes you'll be making during the lecture, plus handouts wherever I deem fit, plus dictations. Udit is asking, can you explain how primary groups are part of secondary groups? Can you help Udit there? How? Yes, you, brother. How primary groups are part of secondary groups? Great. And can you think of any other example?
Like in a bigger family, like we have nuclear families.
Okay, you don't call them nuclear families, but I get your point. So if there's a big joint family, within that you may have cliques or groupings, right? Absolutely, that could be an example. But in any case, that big joint family will still not be considered a secondary group, mind you. So that would not be a very correct example to give. He is asking for within a secondary group where you have primary groups. It could be any large scale organization. Yeah, it could be an office, a big corporation where you have some, a smaller group who are like close knit, and they have personal ties with each other, right? Or like he gave another example that in a university, Udit, university would be a secondary group. It is large sized, purpose focused, the purpose being to the dissemination of knowledge and imparting education, right? And there are formal rules, etc., governing interaction between people. But within this large secondary group of university, you may have small groups of friends who would be primary groups. I hope that clears it better. Socialization and social control. What's the doubt? You'll have to ask me a question so that I can respond. Are outgroups always considered as non-membership groups? Okay, so Dupalla Chinni is asking, and you guys, I would want to respond. Are outgroups always non-membership groups? Because I can still be a member and possess antipathy. So what if I don't like my family too much, right? I mean, or say I belong to a religious community and I don't like where I belong. Definitionally, I would say outgroups are non-membership groups. Outgroups are non-membership groups. So it is, outgroup is the feeling or an attitude of an individual where he feels antipathy towards another group of which he is not a member. The phenomena that you are describing, say I belong somewhere, but I don't like it. There are other terms and concepts we use to explain those. For example, within a larger culture, there may be subcultures that may be slightly at odds with the main culture. Then those subcultures can be considered as countercultures. It may get unnecessarily jargon laden, but for example, broader society, there is, heterosexuality is the dominant accepted mainstream form of sexual behavior. But then some people may develop a homosexual subculture. Are you with me? Dhanyavad. Vaibhavi is giving the example of a college having different departments as a primary group within a secondary group, and that would be a correct or incorrect example. Within a college, if you have different departments, say humanities department, science department, commerce department, is it a correct example for a primary group within a larger secondary group? It is with due respect, Vaibhavi, it is an incorrect, it is a wrong example. Because those departments are also not primary group type. They are very purpose driven and formal and everything. They are simply smaller groupings within a larger grouping. Okay, but they are not primary groups. Rudraksh is asking, the terms you mentioned are quite generic. Can we use them in answers? Which terms are you specifically talking about? If you mean terms like social groups, social institutions, you very well can. Yasmin, I'll share a formal definition of social stratification when I discuss that topic at length. For now, understand social stratification to mean simply a system of inequality prevalent in society. Let's keep it simple. And we will be using a lot of generic English language for much of sociology. 98% will be in our everyday English. What is the relationship between... I request my online students, whenever they ask a question, please put a question mark at the end so that I know it is a question and not a comment or just, So Sunil seems to be asking, what is the relationship between in-groups and membership groups? Brother, can you shed some light on that? Membership groups. Don't define them. How are the two related, or are they related at all? Membership groups or in groups? How? Not in all membership groups. Not in all membership groups. I may have very regular interaction. No, not necessarily. For example, I belong to the Hindu Samaj. I may not be in very regular, day-to-day, frequent interaction with fellow Hindus, because Hindu Samaj is very big, very abstract. To which group? Both. मैं भी confused हो गया. So, membership groups are those simply to which an individual belongs, while in-groups are those membership groups towards which an individual has a strong sense of belonging and attachment. So membership groups would be a larger category, and some of my membership groups I will consider as in groups. Is that clear? Najiullah is asking, can in-group be an emotionally focused entity wherein you don't belong to the group but have a feeling of belongingness to it? No, that cannot be. An in-group you must be belonging to and having that strong sense of attachment to. Can you give examples of membership groups and non-membership groups? Jay is asking. Very well. So my membership groups, I'll tell you, I belong to the Hindu community, and I do not belong to my non-membership group to other denominations like Muslims and Christians and Sikhs and Parsis and so on and so forth. I belong to the Banya caste. So that's a membership group for me. While other castes, right, like I'm not a Rajput, I'm not a Brahmin, I'm not a this or that, Jat or Gujar, etc. These are non-membership groups for me. I'm a teacher, so I belong to the teachers community, and I'm not a student, I'm not a researcher, I'm not a this or that, or I'm not a doctor for that matter, right? These are, so it's as simple as that, Jay. Bhavya is giving an example. If someone from a backward class is a member of the Hindu community but holds antipathy towards the upper class, I presume you imply here caste. If somebody belongs to a backward caste and is a member of the Hindu community but holds antipathy towards upper castes, they belong to the same membership group and consider upper caste as an outgroup. How will we classify them? We will classify it as those different castes as in-group and out-group for the concerned individual. Rather than talking in terms of the Hindu community, the different caste groups will be in-groups and out-groups for this person. And of course, he is also, or the Hindu community is also a membership group for him, right? But his feeling of attachment and antipathy is on caste lines. So those caste groupings will be in-group and out-group, while Hindu Samaj will be a membership group alone. I hope that addresses it. Anjali, I am repeating all questions before answering them. Dupalla, regarding answer writing, I'll discuss separately. Please bear with that. Any doubts? Offline friends? Some families treat their own relatives. So people have conflict and heartburn and a lot of things within families. So you're right, absolutely right. That depends on how the grouping is structured. No. So for example, if I consider my cousins, okay, like my paternal cousins as an adversary, right? Then for me, my nuclear family may be an in-group, while those cousins may be an out-group. But we belong to the same kumbha, right? So that at clan level, it is a membership group for me. Are you with me? Brother, are you raising your hand? Any other thing? Chale aage? Shall we? So let us now today discuss. Acha guys, just as a overall guideline, we will be taking literally baby steps into the discipline of sociology. Okay? We will not be rushing into the discipline as a whole, and we will not be rushing through any of the topics. Since most of us don't have any background in it, I think it is better to treat with caution than, prioritize speed. Okay? So we'll go at a very, very comfortable speed. And chaliye. So let us proceed with today's agenda. Today we will talk about, before we move ahead with the day's agenda, note down some very simple and easy to remember definitions of sociology. According to Auguste Comte, sociology is the science of social phenomena. Science of social phenomena. Full stop. For Weber, he is another important, though a little later sociologist, not one of the early sociologists, right? But a very, very foundational scholar, one of the 6 thinkers mentioned in our paper 1 syllabus as well. For Weber, sociology is the study of social action. Sociology is the study of social action. Simply, we'll discuss Weberian sociology at length when we come to it, but briefly, we all are considered as social actors. So I am performing a role of a teacher. You are performing the role of a student. So whatever actions I am undertaking in that role, are you with me? These are social actions. So sociology is the study of social actions. Full stop. For Ogburn and Nimkoff, sociology is the scientific study of social life. Scientific study of social life. ले दे के सब एक ही चीज कह रहे हैं, right? And these are all very preeminent scholars, and they're easy to remember definitions. Okay? Any one will do us good. We can use it across answers. Okay? याद रखने को. I'm tempted to take up one question. One online student, Neer, is asking, and I want you to respond. Is a WhatsApp group an in-group? बताइए. Is a WhatsApp group an in-group? Absolutely right. It depends. And depends on what? Depends on members कौन है and not so much the affinity. So how the individual feels towards that group. That is the deciding criteria for any group, whether it is an in-group or not. The deciding criteria is how the individual feels towards it, towards its members. Yes or no? So if I am the member of a WhatsApp community, say, Hindu, Jago, or whatever, and I feel that way, then for me it is an in-group. Yes or no? Or if I have we all have these family WhatsApp groups, and I have that strong sense of attachment and inclination towards its members, then it is an in-group. And then there are umpteen number of WhatsApp groups where we resent being a member of, literally. कि मैं क्यों ही हूं, but हूं, है ना, but रहूंगा, right, for courtesy sake or whatever. but we are simply there. So for those groups, those groups are not our in groups, right? So it clearly depends on how the individual feels towards that particular group. Absolutely, it depends on the individual. So you and I, we may have joined the same group, we may be members of the same group, but you may be very strongly attached to it and I may not be. Absolutely. So for you, if you are strongly attached to it, for you it is an in group, while for me it is not. है ना? Does it address? चले आगे with that. Okay, so he's saying, let us take the example of Bajrang Dal. Okay, so is it for its members, is it a membership group or is it an in group? Let's settle it for once and for all. It is surely for all its members, it is a membership group because they are its members. So for them, it's a membership group. Some of them may be very die-hard Bajrang Daliites or whatever they are, right? So they may be very strongly attached to that group. Some may be just wavered and, lying low. Join kar liya, dost ne kara diya, kind of thing. So for those who are very strongly attached to it emotionally, and they feel a sense of oneness with the other members, for them it is an in-group. For others who are not that strongly attached to it, it is merely a membership group and not an in-group. ठीक? चलिए, अब चलते हैं आगे. Let us now discuss the nature of the discipline of sociology. Give us a heading, please. Nature of the discipline. कैसा है ये डिसिप्लिन? आप मुझे बताएंगे, ठीक है? Because this discipline is so intuitive, you will tell me. Before we come to the first point, tell me what we call society. Okay, this entity that sociology studies, what we call society, is it uniquely a human affair, or is it also present in non-human species? क्या समाज या सोसाइटी केवल मनुष्यों में, इंसानों में होता है, या चींटी, भेड़, बकरी, शेर, बैल, चीता, हाथी, इनमें भी? Does a society exist amongst these non-human living entities? Yes or no? Why do you say that? You all give a fairly emphatic and a near, what should I say, unanimous kind of a yes. But why? Why do you say they also have a society or they also live in a society? Bolo bitiya. Very good. So quite like human beings in other species also, their members live in groups, very importantly. If by society we mean, for now a working definition, a group of those of the same species in interaction with each other, so clearly we also have so many other species who work in groups. But is that all what a society is? क्या एक टाइप की स्पीशीज के लोग अगर they are living together, is that what constitutes a society? Or is there something more to a society than that? What else is there? Social interactions and relationships. So are there social interactions and relationships among cheeti, hathi, ghoda? Matlab in their respective, is there a cheeti samaj? Okay, do animals, non-human animals of course, do they have family or family type arrangements? So we clearly do see some, for example, nurturing, of course, not just reproduction, but even nurturing in other species. There is that protective instinct which humans also have, and so do many other species. So quite like human parents protect and nurture their children, teach them life skills, similarly, so do the parents in other species. So clearly some sort of a family or family type system we see there also. is there any kind of, should I say, an economy? या ये बस इंसान ने पैसा इन्वेंट करके अपना जीवन खराब कर लिया? Or is there some sort of an, what we may call, economic behavior in other species? Do they work? You bet they do. You bet they do. सिर्फ मनुष्य को ही नहीं, हर जीव जंतु प्रजाति को अपना पेट पालना पड़ता है और उसके लिए मेहनत करनी पड़ती है. You've seen ants? They're so hardworking. And they have a very complex and refined kind of a division of labor. वो ऐसे लाइन बना के चलते हैं और पता नहीं बड़ी बड़ी रोटियों के टुकड़े उठा के ले जाते हैं. Right? Or you look at the organization, social organization of bees. Yes or no? Across species, you will find a lot of coordination in activity in order to do something. Quite like human beings, they also make residences. हम लोग घर बनाते हैं, जानवर बनाते हैं, वो भी बनाते हैं. From the nests of the birds to various other kinds of dwellings, whether it is burrows or whatever. Yes or no? So we see many social, or we can identify somewhat a society existing in non-human species as well. So now coming to the point, having established this, ठीक है, होता है उनमें भी. Having established this, what is your gut feel talking about the nature of the discipline of sociology? Are we in sociology concerned or engaged in the study of human societies or also societies of these other species? क्या हम चींटी बिल्ली वगैरह के social organization में interest लेते हैं as sociologists? Do we take interest in the animal kingdom and how they live, or we don't? What is your take? जितना ही rudimentary पता है या subject selection से पहले exposure है, or some of you have more exposure, only human? Do we look at only human societies? The answer to that is yes. You're quite right. As a discipline, sociology is focused by and large on the study of human societies. लिखिए. Sociology as a discipline, point number one, nature of discipline of sociology. Point number one, sociology as a discipline concerns itself exclusively with the study of human societies. तो चील कौवे और जानवरों के सोसाइटीज को, सोशल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को, which subject experts or which discipline? Zoologists, botanists, नहीं वो तो प्लांट का हो गया, but zoologists है ना, ornithologists भी होते हैं शायद, बीज के, right? I think they are called ornithologists, ornithologists, हाँ. So these guys, insects वगैरह के, reptiles वगैरह के, ये लोग देख लेंगे. हमें किससे मतलब है? मनुष्य समाज से. Having said that, friends, does that mean we as a discipline completely neglect the goings on in the animal kingdom? क्या हमें जानवरों से या दूसरी स्पीशीज से कोई मतलब नहीं है एज अ डिसिप्लिन? अभी तो कहा आपने कि नहीं है, या है? In the discipline of sociology, having established that we are focusing on human societies, does that mean we are completely unconcerned, unmindful, unaffected in our research by the goings on in the animal kingdom? हाँ या ना? Very well. Absolutely. So the point is, friends, we are not completely unmindful of the goings on in the animal kingdom. While we do as a discipline focus on the study of human societies, but please appreciate, over the last 30 to 50 years, there is this growing field of what is called as environmental sociology. And in this field of environmental sociology, this discipline, our discipline, sociology, also takes interest in some of the things which are happening in the animal kingdom, particularly those things which affect human life or are affected by human actions. ठीक? So we focus on that interface between human societies and the animal kingdom. Are you with me? How do human actions, human societies affect the animal kingdom? For example, deforestation. That would wipe out habitats of many animal species. Yes or no? So we as a discipline will take an interest in that. The ecological destruction because of human actions and its effect on other species. Yes or no? How do things in the animal kingdom affect us? Or do they? Corona kahan se aaya tha? So there are different theories. One is that it was lab grown in Wuhan in China, and another is it came from the wet markets. है ना, bat se aaya tha. So you have so many, and it's this only one of the most serious and impactful examples of zoonotic diseases. There's a whole plethora. There's a plethora of zoonotic diseases, or those diseases which originate in the animal kingdom and then are transmitted across species, including to human beings. Yes or no? So we take a good interest in such things. Okay? We see growing instances of man-animal conflict. Yes or no? Now, since humans are, should I say, encroaching upon the habitat of the wildlife, animals are also intruding into human living spaces. They're entering villages and so on and so forth. Theek? Kerala, maybe here there was this road constructed across this elephant corridor, right? So a lot of things are taking place. So wherever man and animal come into contact with each other and affect each other somehow, that would be of interest to sociology. But we don't care too much about what is the relationship between the hathi and the hathini, right? Or the cheetah and the cheetah. Those within an animal kingdom are not much of a bother for us, but how human actions and the animal kingdom affect each other is of increasing interest to the discipline of sociology. ठीक? लिख लिया? लिखो फिर. लास्ट सेंटेंस क्या लिखा है बेटे? सेंटेंस. Human society. Full stop. However, for the past few decades, the growing field of environmental sociology, does explore the relationship between man and animal. For example, destruction of habitats, man-animal conflict, Acha, in another interesting area of research, for example, Where do we come in very close contact and even form an emotional bond with animals? Pets. Pets. Okay? So pets are literally considered as a very integral part of the family. And nowadays we live in this age of political correctness. You're not a pet owner, you're a pet parent. So pets are literally equated with children. There have been known cases of people who have willed their wealth to their pets. कुत्ते के नाम कर गए. वाकई में, right? So there are very strong, abiding, emotional relationships between man and animal, right? तो वो जो उसका इफेक्ट होता है human lives पे, how they are made and become, what role they play as a part of a family, all of that is a very interesting area of research for sociology. ठीक, चलिए second point. But by and large we are focused on the study of human societies. ठीक है. Secondly, you tell me, as a discipline, what do we study? Do we study specific individuals, or do we in sociology study or focus on larger groupings or aggregates? क्या हम व्यक्ति विशेष को स्टडी करते हैं या हम सामाजिक व्यवस्था को स्टडी करते हैं? एग्रीगेट्स में मतलब ग्रुप्स ऑफ पीपल को स्टडी करते हैं या इंडिविजुअल्स को? ग्रुप्स ऑफ पीपल. Which discipline, tell me, would focus or be interested in the study of the individual? A discipline like psychology. So as a psychologist, if I'm a psychologist, I would be interested in what is going on in the mind of Mr. X or Miss Y. Yes or no? But in sociology, we are not too bothered about the life story of a Pranay or an Ankit or a Neha. We want to study people, how they live together. What are the interactions and relationships between a group of people? So the individual is somewhat underemphasized in sociology. We focus on the big picture. We focus on, we kind of take a bird's eye view. So when we are discussing marriage, we don't talk about this person's marriage or that person's. We talk about the kind of marriage which takes place in a given society, say in Hindu society, in Muslim society, in Christian society, or in Indian society, in Western society. Theek? So we are interested in the study of groups, aggregates, and not individuals. Clear? लिखिए. Second point. Second है ना ये? Third क्यों? पहला हमने बोला कि focuses on the study of human societies. उसी का एक caveat या वो दिया था. हाँ, तो आएंगे, उस पे भी आएंगे. You're right. ठीक है? No denying. But by and large, the emphasis is on the study of social groups. लिखिए. The discipline of sociology mainly focuses on the study of aggregates. Study of aggregates and not the individual. And not the individual. Aggregates मतलब more than one, है ना? एक plurality of people. Those aggregates could be in the nature of social groups like family or a group of friends. Those aggregates could be classes, working class, middle class, capitalist class. ठीक है? So we focus on the macro level phenomena. ठीक? But does that mean that we इग्नोर द इंडिविजुअल इन एंटायरिटी? क्या हमें व्यक्ति विशेष से कोई मतलब नहीं है, या है? क्या है? क्या है? So will a sociologist be interested in studying a specific individual? कि मिस्टर एक्स कि प्रणय कैसे पढ़ा रहा है या बच्चों से इंटरेक्ट कर रहा है, या दे वांट टू एनालाइज द एजुकेशन सिस्टम एज अ होल? अब आप बताइए ब्रदर. यस, यू वर सेइंग समथिंग.
सिस्टम को एक ग्रुप कैसे देखता है वो बता रहे कि मतलब दोस्त का बच्चों का डेथ होने के बाद वो अकेली नहीं रह सकती, बट मैं जो कह रहे हैं उसके
वो एक सामाजिक बदलाव है जो आप बात कर रहे हो कि सती पहले जस्टिफाइड था, अब नहीं है. वो एक समाज में बदलाव हुआ है विद द ग्रोथ ऑफ इंडिविजुअलिज्म एंड द सैंक्टिटी ऑफ ह्यूमन लाइफ एटसेट्रा. Please appreciate, friends, while what we have just written, that we focus on groups, that was quite true about the nature of the discipline when it began. It began taking a bird's eye view of how changes are taking place in society. It would focus on social groupings, social classes, social institutions, which are all macro phenomena. But there was this very important sociologist by the name of Max Weber. Weber onwards, the discipline of sociology also began to focus on the study of micro level phenomena. When it began with Comte, Durkheim, Karl Marx, it focused on classes and social institutions. But from Max Weber onwards, the discipline of sociology also began emphasizing on the study of, emphasizing the study at the level of the individual. Why I say Weber onwards? Because after Weber, there was an increasing number of scholars who would focus more and more on the study at the level of individual. Weber began that new tradition because earlier sociologists were focused solely or entirely on macro phenomena. Weber began focusing on individual. इसीलिए हमने पढ़ा था, Weber says sociology is the study of social action. Action कौन perform करता है? Individual actor करता है. तो Weber would be interested कि प्रणय का पढ़ाने का तरीका क्या है, या प्रणय and ex student का interaction कैसा है. And then others took forward that same approach. And with Weber, this discipline of sociology moved closer towards the discipline of किसके जैसा होते गए हम as a discipline? Psychology. So Weber and onwards, we also started quite like psychologists, focusing on how the individual thinks, how he interprets things. उसके दिमाग में क्या चल रहा है. Earlier sociologists macro level जो study करते थे, they were quite unconcerned. They did not consider it important to study at the level of individual. But Weber and onwards, there was a shift. I can appreciate this may not appeal much to you as yet. It will when we study Weber. Suffice it to say for now that early sociologists, those who laid the foundations of the discipline like Comte, Durkheim, Karl Marx, etc., they were focused on the study of how people live in groups. What are the relationships and interactions in a large sized grouping? But Weber onwards started shifting towards studying individual level phenomena. ठीक? लिखिए, क्या लिखा है बेटे last sentence? हाँ, it studies aggregates and not the individual. Full stop. However, Weber onwards, there was an increased focus on the study of the motives, meanings, and actions of individuals as well. To give you a sense, a chronological sense, when I say we began taking a big picture approach, macro approach, that was in the 19th century. The discipline of, when was the term sociology coined, Bitya? 1838. That is literally, we can say that is when sociology began, when Comte coined that term in the 19th century. So 19th century was all about the big picture. Weber's writing gained preeminence in the 20th century, early 20th century. And Weber onwards, there was this shift towards from macro to micro level phenomena being studied in sociology. ठीक? तो 19th century में macro, aggregates, groups, big picture. 20th century में, I would say, complemented with the study of micro level phenomena, because macro level studies were not abandoned altogether. ठीक है? But a new trend began. वेबर ने कहा कि हमें इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे भी फोकस करना चाहिए. ठीक? नेक्स्ट, आप बताइए मुझे, इन सोशियोलॉजी फ्रेंड्स, what are we interested in? Do we want to study how society is, or do we want to study how society ought to be, how society should be? समाज कैसा होना चाहिए, क्या हम उस दिशा में एफर्ट्स करते हैं, या कैसा समाज है हम उसको अध्ययन करना चाहते हैं? कैसा, नॉट कैसा चाहते हैं, चाहते हैं या है? हु इज इंटरेस्टेड इन कैसा समाज होना चाहिए? डिसिप्लिन कह लो या पीपल कह लो. If I think, I'm a thinker. Philosophers, absolutely. So philosophy takes a very keen interest in how society should be. Apart from philosophers, don't confine yourselves to academics. Na? Subject se bahar niklo. You're right. Philosophy takes a very keen interest in how society should be. Apart from that, who else thinks about how kaisa samaj hona chahiye? Statesmen, leaders. Yes or no? So Nehru, Ambedkar, Gandhi, they envisaged हमें कैसा भारत of tomorrow बनाना है. Modi ji is doing that today. Yes or no? So it could be political leaders, visionaries, administrators, lawmakers, and of course, philosophers, even poets, revolutionaries. All of these guys take a keen interest in how society should be. But we are more humble, should I say, in our agenda. We are more concerned with analyzing how society is. हम कोई एक आइडियल, परफेक्ट, बेहतर सोसाइटी बनाने के टास्क में एंगेज्ड नहीं है. हम किस में एंगेज्ड हैं? समाज कैसा है, समाज में क्या हो रहा है, उसका एक क्लिनिकल, साइंटिफिक काइंड ऑफ एन एनालिसिस करने में. क्लियर? लिखिए. The discipline of sociology is largely descriptive. Is largely descriptive and not prescriptive. Largely descriptive and not prescriptive. Meaning what? What we had discussed. It describes. how society is. It does not prescribe. Doctor prescription देता है ना, prescribe करता है कि ये होना चाहिए, ये करो. The discipline of sociology is not so prescriptive. In other words, it is not so much concerned about how society should be or ought to be. It is concerned about how society, or analyzing how society is, what is happening in society, not what should be happening in society. Clear? Again, same question. Does that mean we have no room as a discipline to put forth the vision of a better society? क्या हम डिटैच्ड क्लिनिकल साइंटिस्ट की तरह बस ये देखेंगे हो क्या रहा है, विदाउट प्रिस्क्राइबिंग एनी कोर्स ऑफ एक्शन टू बेटर ह्यूमन लाइव्स? Yes or no? There is this small but growing field of what is called as critical sociology, critical researchers. They advocate, dictate bhi kar dunga, they basically advocate that, what is the point of analyzing society only for the sake of it? We must do so with a positive charter of change. We must contribute our bit. We are not leaders, statesmen, and thought leaders, or philosophers, public intellectuals. But we must do our bit as an academic discipline, which is so focused on the study of society, to try create a better society. Are you with me? For example, feminist sociologists, they often advocate that not only should we be analyzing the nature of relationship between men and women in society, we must also put out a positive charter of change. So these kind of researchers, like feminist researchers, black researchers coming from the African American community, okay, who analyze race relations, Dalit researchers in India, they also often double up as social, social activists, right? Trying to bring about change. केवल हमें थ्योरी या पढ़ाई नहीं करनी है, समाज का अध्ययन नहीं करना है, उसको इंप्लीमेंट करना है अपने ज्ञान को, to create a better, a more fair, a more just, a more equal society. We must actively advocate for the betterment of the disadvantaged sections of the society. ठीक है? So they combine research or academic activity with activism. Clear? लिखिए क्या लिखा है लास्ट चीज बेटे? हाँ, sociology is largely descriptive and not prescriptive. Full stop. However, a growing body of scholars ब्रैकेट में लिखिए critical researchers bracket close, including feminists, and black researchers, consider the agenda of the discipline. Consider the agenda of the discipline to be broader, full stop, for them, sociology should not only study social reality, but also lay down an action plan and a charter, CHARTER, for social reform to create, to help create a better society. ठीक? A student's question is, are Marxists, can they be considered as critical researchers or of the other variety? If you were to ask, that's a difficult question, but I'll give you a brief insight. If you were to ask Karl Marx himself, he was of the view that my theory is purely scientific. He was like, I'm not an activist or this thing. It is my prediction that capitalism will fall under its own weight. It is my scientific prediction. Okay, because of some empirical evidences and happenings going on in capitalism, it is bound to fall. So he did not fancy himself, Marx himself did not see himself as a reformer. Okay, but for subsequent generations of Marxists, they hail that what he wrote, or the communist society of equals that he wrote about, they consider that an ideal to be strived for or to be achieved through concerted action. Okay? If you have not been able to connect with what I'm saying regarding Marx because you're not aware of his writings, then just disregard this bit. Okay? We'll come to Marx when we study him. Okay? Nextly, मार्क्स के बच्चों को बोलते हैं नियो मार्क्सिस्ट, मतलब those who carry on the झंडा of Marxism following him. So neo Marxists are often critical researchers. Marx's own writings, Sri Karl Marx's own writings, they can be considered of the descriptive kind if you were to believe in Marx, what he says of himself. Chaliye. Nextly, what is the method that we use for sociological research? समाज को हमें अगर स्टडी करना है, what method do we use? Is it a scientific discipline or otherwise? What's your sense? Is sociology scientific or not? Social service, survey. ठीक है, I mean, that can be one way of collecting data. My broader question remains, is sociology a scientific discipline? Does it use the scientific method or it does not? Why you say that? We use common sense. Why are you using such difficult words? Or could you simplify that for us? When you say it's a normative science, what does it mean? Because to baad mein. We who? The researchers or members of society? I don't care about that aspect. What members do, that's another thing. I'm talking about the nature of the subject. How we collect information, how we reach conclusions as researchers, as social scientists. by comparing with other countries. Okay. सोशियोलॉजी, एक सिंपल सवाल पूछ रहा हूं, आपके हिसाब से एक साइंटिफिक सब्जेक्ट है या नहीं है? आप बताओ, आपको क्या लगता है? आई विल ऑफ कोर्स कम टू दैट. ही इज आस्किंग, आर एक्सपेरिमेंट्स कंडक्टेड इन सोशियोलॉजी? व्हाट इज योर सेंस? कैन वी conduct experiments in sociology? Do we? Yes, but I think his face is expressing a concern that there are human lives involved, human people involved. So how can we like experiment on human beings? I mean, can we treat human beings like guinea pigs? Sorry? बताओ क्या लगता है, क्या बेसिक एक्सपेरिमेंट्स होते हैं सोशियोलॉजी में? एक्शन रिएक्शन वो तो आपने एनालॉजी लगा दी. दैट अपार्ट, जो पर्टिकुलरली जो स्टडी जैसे करते हैं, है इसका एम्पिरिकल बेसिस इस डिसिप्लिन का? We collect data using surveys and other methods, and then we classify information, analyze it, try to establish causal relationship between the variables, quite like science. So the founding fathers of the discipline of sociology were crystal clear in their minds, friends, that sociology is a scientific discipline. कोई डेफिनेशन देख लो आप, कॉम्टे की, दुर्खाइम की, इसकी उसकी, सब कहते हैं इट इज द साइंटिफिक स्टडी of society. Comte went to the extent of saying it is not an ऐसी वैसी science, it is the queen science. साइंसों की रानी है. He says physics, chemistry, these are lower sciences. At the top, he created a hierarchy of sciences, at the top of which he placed sociology. तो कैसा डिसिप्लिन है ये? साइंटिफिक. लिखो. Next point, huh? Fourth, fifth, whatever it is. Sociology is connect, but I don't see myself. Guys, am I visible and audible? Online friends? Visible now, right? Audible also? Please type yes. Okay. I had paused when the connection was lost. So you should not have missed out anything. What's the last thing we've written? I'm repeating the sentence. Sociology is the scientific study of society. Full stop. Guys, stop typing and please write. Sociology is the scientific study of society. Full stop. Sociological researchers collect data, classify it into appropriate categories, thank you, comma, analyze the data and establish causal relationships. Casual नहीं, causal, huh? Cause effect वाली. And establish causal relationships between the variables under study. And establish causal relationships between the variables under study. ठीक? Full stop. So does that mean, again, that there's no room for non-scientific methods in sociology? Or is there? By now you know the nature of this discipline. So of course there is. Particularly since the writings of who? Max Weber. Okay? So since Weber, there was this growing tradition of other methods, let's call them other methods for, or non-scientific methods being used in sociological research. What those methods are, we'll discuss later. What Weber basically argued that, using scientific methods alone is not sufficient to capture the social reality. We need to supplement those methods with some other methods. It's not the right moment to discuss at length those other methods. I will, but later on. Suffice it to say that scientific methods or their limitations and inadequacy was acknowledged by Weber. So since Weber, there are other methods which are also used in sociological research. And today, कौन सा use करते हैं हम? We use a multiplicity of methods. Today, sociological research uses multiple methods, including both scientific and non-scientific, to study and analyze social life. ठीक? देख लिया? चलें आगे? Clear? Why isn't the scientific method? Any guesses why the scientific method is not sufficient to study society? Any guesses? We'll discuss this question at length later. But any preliminary views on why, it's such a robust method, if I could say that. Most of us here are from science and engineering background, right? And it has its own sturdiness. It is like very proven and widely accepted, well respected, with lot of checks in place that things don't go wrong or are not, faulty or incorrect. Things are not accepted as truth. Then why should this method not suffice? If we can study the material world, the physical world, using this scientific method, why can't we study human societies using it? Bitya?
has the drawbacks. But so our society is very.
What are those drawbacks of science?
So sometimes any piece of experiment get I mean गलत हो जाते हैं some reactions.
तो
It's a flaw. कि हम उसकी गलतियां नहीं देखते हैं, drawbacks
नहीं दिखाओ ना आप. जैसे आप कह रहे हो, आप सही कह रहे हो कि गलती हो जाती है एक्सपेरिमेंट में, तो फिर से कर लो. I mean, if I am a votary of the scientific method, I would say ठीक है, गलती हो जाती है. मैंने हाइड्रोजन और क्लोरीन मिलाया HCl बनाने के लिए, बट वो कुछ हो गया, उबल गया, ओवरफ्लो हो गया, तो मैं फिर से कर लूंगा इन डिफरेंट क्वांटिटीज. हाँ. Very good. I'm saying you have made a very sincere and genuine, heartfelt effort to make a very difficult point. Her point was that, there is a lot of variability in the social world, and perhaps science is not able to fully capture that variability. Particularly, if I'm just trying to paraphrase some aspects of what I've learned from her. Particularly, if we conduct, say, experiments on a group of people, say this classroom, okay, if you are studying the teacher to student relationship and we conduct some experiments, some sort of observations we make from this interaction, is it likely to hold true for other classroom interactions that may be specific to this teacher or this group of students? Right? So just like we can have a consistent pattern in science, in the physical world, in the social world. Okay? You are quite on the mark, and we'll discuss this and many other limitations of the scientific method later on. But good. Which point was this? Fourth. Example of non-scientific method, Nancy is asking. I'll discuss it later. I can only name it right now, but then that will not satisfy your intellectual curiosity. In fact, it will worsen your this thing. Another thing, if I may extrapolate from what she was saying, there can be errors in experimentation. Errors in experimenting with chemicals or physical objects may not have wider repercussions. But in society, we are dealing with human beings, human relationships, human lives. Yes or no? So if experiments are conducted and gone wrong, then they may have real world consequences. Are you with me? So we need to be very mindful of that human impact while conducting experiments. Chaliye. So point is that presently in sociology, we have both scientific and other methods being used to study the social world. Clear? Nextly. See, in most of, perhaps all of these points, you may have noticed that we begin with a broad generalization that sociology ऐसी है, and then we introduce a caveat कि पूरी तरह से भी ऐसी नहीं है. There are exceptions, there are newer ways, or later things change somewhat. ठीक है? Tell me, friends, what is the former sentence still holds true. Of the two, the first one still to a large extent holds true. Okay, in all these points that we've mentioned. So it is largely descriptive and not prescriptive. Largely considered scientific than otherwise. Okay, largely focused on human societies and not much to do with the animal kingdom. All right. एक और बताइए. In sociology, what are we interested in? Studying or identifying patterns, or studying unique events? हम पैटर्न्स पे फोकस करते हैं या यूनिक इवेंट्स पे फोकस करते हैं? Who is saying what? What do we study? कौन कह रहा है? To a large extent. Who is saying patterns? What do you mean by this? Explain the question to me if you can. Okay. Quite fine, I would say, an explanation. So broadly, yes, broadly as a discipline, we are interested in the study of patterns, not in unique events. Unique events कौन सा discipline interested होता है? History. Third battle of Panipat. कौन, who were the adversaries? एक तरफ ये थे, एक तरफ वो थे, इस तारीख को हुआ, इस साल में हुआ, these were the factors, this force won, what were the factors which went in its favor, and so on and so forth. So history as a discipline greatly focuses on unique events. In sociology, we are more concerned with identifying patterns. ठीक? लिखिए. The discipline of sociology largely focuses on identifying patterns and framing generalizations. Framing generalizations, comma, and not so much on studying unique events in depth. Not so much on studying unique events in depth. That we leave to who? The historians. किस टाइप की generalizations we try to make? For example, lot of sociologists, they have given laws of social evolution. How societies change over time. How societies change from one type to another over time. And they consider these laws are invariable. Matlab, they consider these, all societies pass through these stages. Some such sociologists, they give laws of social evolution, a very broad pattern of how societies change over time. For example, you don't need to note down what I'm writing now at this stage. I will write it later. Keep limited information. For example, Comte, he believed that society passes through 3 stages. Theological, mat likhna, tab bhi likhoge, mujhe pata hai bahut. To metaphysical, to positive stage. Over time, societies pass through from theological stage to metaphysical to positive stage. This was his law of social evolution. Shri Karl Marx. According to him, societies pass from the stage of primitive communism to ancient slave society, to feudal, to capitalist, to communist society. सीधी लाइन में लिखता, but because of paucity of space, okay, like these are chronologically arranged. Over time, this is how society began and this is how it will end. And a lot of other evolutionary theorists have given various stages through which all societies have passed or will pass. This is like an iron law set in stone. Clear? These kind of generalizations we try to develop in sociology. So sociologists, they would not be too interested in, for example, events like important historical events like the French Revolution or the independence of India. They would try to identify broad patterns, how over time societies are evolving. Clear? Is that true in entirety? Do we ignore historical events in sociology? The answer is no. Particularly since the writings of Max Weber. Absolutely. Sahi pakde hain aap. Since the writings of Weber, sociology has increasingly also started taking interest in the analysis of unique historical events. So this Weber was really a turning point kind of a guy for us as a discipline. Okay? For example, Weber himself analyzed at great depth what were the historical factors resulting in the emergence of capitalism as an economic system. We'll discuss. आज के टाइम में अब कई फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन आवर लाइफ टाइम, जब से आप बड़े हो तब की बात कर रहा हूं, देयर वाज अ यूनिक इवेंट व्हिच वुड कैप्चर द इमेजिनेशन एंड इंटरेस्ट ऑफ academicians across disciplines including sociology. क्या हुआ था? COVID-19, the pandemic. Can any discipline afford to ignore the impacts, the unfolding of such a rare event in human history like the pandemic? No. So there's a whole growing body of sociology of pandemics. It began in 1990s, but it gathered steam since COVID. समझ रहे हैं आप? So we study mostly patterns and try to arrive at generalizations, but since we are also looking at unique events. वही लिखा होगा, पहला सेंटेंस लिखा होगा आप लोगों ने, that we focus on generalizations, arriving at generalizations, identifying patterns. However, please continue writing. However, since Weber there is an increased focus on the analysis of unique historical events बस यूनिक हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट्स, फुल स्टॉप. ठीक. लास्टली ये बताइए, व्हेन वी स्टडी सोशियोलॉजी, वी स्टडी वेरियस सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशंस. वी मेंशन्ड इंस्टीट्यूशंस लाइक फैमिली, रिलीजन, पॉलिटिकल, इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम, एजुकेशन इत्यादि. When we study these social institutions, do we study them in isolation, or do we study them as interconnected with each other? Interconnected या isolated? Interconnected. Interconnected. तो जब हम, let us take this example he has raised of the education system. If we are studying the education system, do we also link it in any way with, say, the economy, or say in the Indian context with the caste system, with the political system, with religion? Yes or no? The answer is an emphatic yes. Clearly, we don't see these social institutions as operating in isolation. We do not see them as operating in a vacuum. All social institutions, they have an important bearing on each other. They are intimately interconnected with each other. So we focus on those interconnections. Are you with me? And this is where we differ from the other disciplines. For example, when an economist studies the economy, he focuses primarily on economic variables as if they operate in a vacuum. He will talk about economic variables like demand, supply, cost price, sales price, unemployment, inflation, repo rate, वगैरह. But when we in sociology, when we study economic behavior of people, we realize how religion may affect people's economic behavior, economic choices. How caste can affect economic outcomes. Are you with me? ये सब मैं मनगढ़ंत बना रहा हूं या really you think the economy or economic behavior is affected by something like, say, religion? Do you think? How? Isn't it simply affected by purely economic variables like cost and price, etc.? For example, don't give me any theory or any big thing. Tell me about your life. If you go to buy something in the market, okay, you want to buy a shirt. You have two sellers, this guy and this guy. This guy is selling that particular shirt of a particular brand, particular quality, वगैरह, for rupees 500, and she is selling it for 700. Whom will you buy it from? 500? Anybody willing to take it for 700, the same shirt? Then aren't your considerations purely money driven, rational? What's religion, caste, any other thing got to do with this? Or does it? I'll buy it from her. Many of you might, because she's my sister, or because she's from my caste and I want to patronize my fellow castemen. बनियों की दुकान से लेंगे. ठीक है? Are you with me? So non-economic considerations like kinship, caste, religion, or I might not buy from his shop because iski dukaan ke paas mein meat milta hai, which is against my religious sensibilities. इनकी दुकान के साथ में देसी घी की मिठाई मिलती है, which is in alignment with my religious sensibilities. Are you with me? So non-economic factors can affect and do affect economic behavior of people. This is what we in sociology acknowledge and recognize. So we don't study the economy in isolation. We have to understand how various other social institutions affect economic activities. Yes or no? लिखिए. We'll study about this with more examples and in more depth as we proceed, but this is just to give you a sense that different institutions are interconnected and they are seen as such in the discipline of sociology. लिखिए. As a discipline, sociology considers that different social institutions are, I repeat, as a discipline, sociology considers that different social institutions are interconnected. Full stop. So, yes, should I repeat? So, we focus on studying the impact of different social institutions on each other. We focus on studying the impact of different social institutions on each other instead of seeing them in isolation. ठीक? So that is about the nature of the discipline of sociology. Clear? What all we have said? That this discipline focuses on the study of human societies, that this discipline uses which method? The scientific method, that this discipline is descriptive or prescriptive? Descriptive, that this discipline sees social institutions as isolated or interconnected? Interconnected, or it focuses on individuals or groupings, aggregates? Aggregates, on generalizations and patterns or unique events? Generalizations and patterns. कुछ बच गया? हालांकि सब में एक however लग जाता है. ठीक है? With that we take a break. 10 odd minutes and then we continue. Do we have anybody here who was not here yesterday? Can you please introduce yourself, guys? Pranay? Very nice to meet you. And can you share your academic background and like where you from?
I'm from Delhi. I did my engineering in JIT and then I was working
In
JIT,
which is
in Noida,
JP Institute. Huh.
Then
Which engineering?
engineering.
Computer science engineering.
And then I was working in Pune. And now I left my job to
कितने साल?
एक
एक साल. एक साल of engineering work is enough to. ठीक है. And you began recently?
Yeah, we can do 2 months.
अच्छा. जम्मू.
I have just completed my graduation yesterday for my last from Ramdas College in philosophy.
Philosophy and political science. And आपने इन दोनों को ऑप्शनल के रूप में नहीं लिया. Both are very interesting and rich disciplines, I would say.
Open-ended for me.
Hmm.
I don't get solutions to open problems.
And you've also recently begun your UPSC preparation
Most of I've done my GS.
already, huh? So more than a year. Brother, Priyanshu. And बहुत ही पावन लग रही है. And what's your academic background? In graduation in?
Yes.
Any prior exposure to social? आपने पढ़ा है social अपने any even in bits or something? Any exposure?
I gave my PG exam. So थोड़ा सा as a discipline.
Guys, feel free to like stretch your legs or anything. If you want to move out. I mean, that's what breaks are for. Please settle down, friends. One second. Online friends, please type if you can hear me and see me. Please confirm. Type yes, please. Online friends. Yes, thank you. Chaliye. Moving on. So we've discussed a very broad understanding of what the nature of this discipline is. Now let us talk about a more fundamental thing. हम कह रहे हैं कि sociology is the study of society. What is society? बताइए. When we say sociology is the study of society, बिल्कुल सही बात है. What is society या समाज? Could you repeat that? Individuals having, group of individuals having a certain pattern of behavior. Okay, having beliefs. ठीक है. और brother? Those who share a common culture and live in a given territory. With due respect, that's a very rutty hui definition. है ना? So let's begin with more intuitive understanding of what society is. ठीक है, a very elementary thing to begin with. Let's explore this. It's a group of people who interact with each other. Can we all agree that society is necessarily a group of people? Or can one person constitute a society? Can I say मेरे समाज में मैं हूं? Yeah, that is not like, enough. Is simply, it has to be necessarily, definitionally, it has to be a group of people. Can we say that? Bilkul. Now these group of people, so let us make a group of people. This is I. Who is this I? Each of us, our respective I. This is one individual. And then there are not just one, because we said it is necessarily a group of people. So a lot of people. Theek? Now this group of people, do they have anything that joins them? Or is it just any arbitrary group of people? Any assorted grouping of people? Is that a society? Sense of belonging together. There's a relationship between these people. So let us make these relationships. Bilkul. What kind of relationships are these? Let us say this is you. Okay, each of us. So who's this person? Whom do you have a social relationship with? Your friend. Who's this guy? Bolo na. Sibling or parent. हो गए सारे family members निपट गए. और employer और neighbor, ठीक है. और teacher और leader. एक बात बताइए, is personal acquaintance necessary for a social relationship to exist? क्या ऐसा हो सकता है मैं आपको जानता नहीं पर मेरा आपसे एक रिश्ता है, कि आप मुझे जानते नहीं और मेरा आपसे रिश्ता है? Can that happen? Or do we need to know each other personally? Do you have a relationship with Moody ji? Yes or no? Do you have a social relationship with Modi ji? Yes or no? Yes or no? Modi ji may not know about the existence of a Pranay or an Amit or an Akanksha as an individual. Yet, does he have a relationship with us? You bet he does. Right? So point is, friends, a personal acquaintance is not necessary. Face-to-face meetings are not necessary for a social relationship to exist. पर ये कैसा रिश्ता है? कैसा रिश्ता है ये? I mean, why do we say it is a relationship? ना कभी मिले, ना देखा, ना कुछ. टीवी पे देखा मैक्स, उन्होंने तो हमें टीवी पे भी नहीं देखा. हाँ? Then what kind of why do we say we have a relationship with this person who doesn't know even of my existence? Absolutely. Please appreciate, friends, it's not so much about personal acquaintance. It's about whether these two individuals are, they whether directly or indirectly acknowledge the existence of the other. Whether the actions of one affect the life of the other. Yes or no? So जब मोदी जी लाल किले पे भाषण दे रहे होते हैं या हर वीकेंड पे मन की बात कर रहे होते हैं, he is addressing you and I, the nameless, faceless जनता. Yes or no? जब वो लाल किले पे भाषण दे रहे हैं, he is very mindful of how he is carrying himself, his oration, his everything. Why? Can Modi ji, do a bhangra on Lal Kila? No, he has to present himself in a certain manner. Why? Because he is very conscious of the nameless, faceless janta that is observing him, evaluating him, voting for him, criticizing him. Yes or no? Okay? So it is clearly a social relationship between the ruler and the ruled, the leader and the follower, a politician and his critic, and so on. ठीक है? So personal acquaintance की बात नहीं है. Mutual recognition and impact की बात है. So political leaders, religious figures, yes or no? Do you have a relationship with Sri Ravi Shankar or a Sadguru? Yes, you do. If you listen to their YouTube videos, if you learn from what they preach, if your actions are affected by what they espouse or what they teach. Yes or no? और सिर्फ आप ही नहीं अफेक्ट हो रहे हो, वो भी अफेक्ट हो रहे हैं. वो अपना पॉडकास्ट किसके लिए कर रहे हैं? आपके लिए कर रहे हैं. ठीक है? So film actors, religious preachers, political leaders whom we may not know personally, we share important relationships with them. ठीक है? Buyer, seller, employer, corporates, maid, इन सब से हमारे social relationships हैं. These are various individuals who are part of our social world. ठीक? अब ये बताओ कहाँ गए आपके जो पेरेंट्स हैं? हाँ, एनिमीज भी बिल्कुल. हाँ, इट्स अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग रिलेशनशिप. इट्स अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग रिलेशनशिप. एनिमिटी है ना? एंड वन वर्जन ऑफ इट यू हैव इट राइट हियर इन दिस रूम. कॉम्पिटिटर्स. नहीं, डोंट लुक एट ईच अदर एज एनिमीज, है ना? खैर, point is, let's say this is keeping you at the center. These are the different individuals who are part of your social world. Now let's talk about this individual, your parent. Does your parent also have a relationship with your sibling? So we can draw this. Does he have a relationship with your friend? Namaste uncle, namaste auntie. बेटे मत बिगाड़ो मेरे बच्चे को. Does he have a relationship with your neighbor? With your teacher? PTA में जाते हैं. With political leaders, religious figures, buyers, etc. Then does the teacher also have a relationship with this and that? Right? This is what is society. This complex of human relationships is what constitutes society. Please write down. According to MacIver, society is a web, WEB, web of interpersonal relationships. ये जो मकड़ी का जाला हमें यहां दिख रहा है, literally cross-cutting interpersonal relationships, this is what constitutes society. ठीक? Next, another way, let us try to understand what society is. One is, it is this complex whole comprising of various social relationships. Let us conceptualize the society in another way. According to Comte, society is like an organism. Society is like an organism possessing harmony. I repeat, society is like an organism having harmony of structure and function. I repeat, society is like an organism having harmony of structure and function. ठीक? Let us try to make sense of what this view of society means. थोड़ा थोड़ा इसको करके लेते हैं. It says society is like an organism. And further it says it's like an organism having harmony of structure and function. So let us first try to appreciate how an organism have harmony of structure and function. Before we understand that, let us try to understand what is structure and what is function. What is structure? These are normal English words. Forget that you are in a sociology class. ठीक है? What is structure, friends? अंग्रेजी का शब्द है, साधारण शब्द है. अर्थ बताइए. हिंदी शब्द बताइए. What is structure in simple language? ढांचा. Absolutely, it means ढांचा. So what is the structure of this pen? Or let's say this pen you are more familiar with. This pen has a particular structure. What is that structure? Can anybody describe that to me? It's not that difficult, guys. It is cylindrical in shape. It has a nib, which is made up of metal, it seems. It has a plastic body. It has X diameter, Y length. ये इसका structure और बनावट या ढांचा है. Yes or no? When we say structure, does it mean that things may be arbitrarily put together or in a definitive manner? For example, मेरे को एक पेन बर्बाद करना पड़ रहा है for demonstration, but if I leave these like this, okay, the different parts of this structure, if they are put together like this, is it the structure of a pen? In the structure of a pen presently? No, it is not. Right? It means it becomes a pen when it is put together in a particular, well organized, well linked with each other kind of a way, which is this. ठीक है? मतलब so ये हो गया इसका. This is now in its proper structure, how it is supposed to be. So it is not any arbitrary assorted way of putting together some things. When they are organized in a specific manner, then that is its structure. Clear? Function क्या होता है? In normal English, it says society is like an organism possessing harmony of structure and function. ठीक है? What is function? We understood structure. मतलब a well organized specific manner में things are put together. That's a structure or a ढांचा. What's function in English? Sorry? Objective workflow. As in, what's the function of this pen? To write. Okay. So what is function? You're right when you say the function of this pen is to write. What is function then? What purpose it serves? That is its function, roughly. But do you also acknowledge this pen can serve other purposes? For example, I can use this pen to scratch and etch with. and we do often, or to, you know, twiddle my thumbs like when I'm getting bored, aise aise karna, or to use it as a projectile and hit somebody. So many other things. Sorry? Or for a pen fight, so on and so forth. Point is, it can be used for multiple, it can be used in multiple ways. But you very rightly, you did not say any of them when you were talking about the function of the pen. You said it is to write, and that is really right. I mean, correct. That is correct. Why? Why is its function to write, you say, and not to do khujli? Tell me, because you really can do that also with it. You know, that is the purpose for which it is meant or made. It is meant to write. It is not meant to do khujli. It also happens to do khujli as an aside, but that's not its purpose or function. So the function means what a thing, the primary purpose that it serves. That is its function. Clear? ये अभी तक हमने sociology, society बिल्कुल नहीं बोला है. We are just understanding the words structure and function. Now let us get back to our definition of society. It is like an organism possessing harmony of structure and function. Now, so what it is saying, quite like how an organism has harmony of structure and function, so does society. So before coming to society, let us appreciate how there is harmony of structure and function in an organism. Organism क्या होता है? जीव, any living being is an organism. Say a human being is an organism. So what is the structure of this organism, the human being? What is the structure? Tell me. अरे इतना कठिन है क्या? What is the structure of the human organism? हमारा structure, हमारा ढांचा, बनावट क्या है? We have 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth cavity, 2 ears, a cranial capacity, and so on and so forth, a nervous system, and so on and so forth. ये हमारा stomach, liver, pancreas, kidney, ये क्या है? हमारा बनावट या हमारी structure है. ठीक है? Different, so these are different parts of an organism which have been put together in a specific manner. अगर हम liver, pancreas वगैरह ऐसे इकट्ठा करके रख देंगे, क्या organism बन जाएगा? नहीं बन जाएगा. When they are put together in a specific interconnected manner, then that is a proper structure of an organism. What are the functions that these different parts of the organism perform? What is the function of the eye? आंख वाला eye. To see. What is the function of the tongue? To taste, to produce saliva for digestion. What is the function of? So हर इस structure में हर part, well, you know, is in its rightful place. It is in its right place, and it is performing certain function or certain purpose which helps in the maintenance, well-being, growth of the organism. ठीक? इसी तरह liver का कुछ function है, heart का function है to pump blood, and so on and so forth. शरीर का हर हिस्सा कुछ ना कुछ कर रहा है. Every part of an organism performs certain clearly identifiable functions. Clear? Further, this sentence says there is harmony of structure and function in an organism. What does this harmony mean? When we say there is harmony of structure and function in an organism, what do we mean by harmony? Let us try to appreciate. Harmony matlab? Harmony simply means there is cooperation and coordination between the different parts. Are you with me? Of an organism. For example, let's say it is about lunchtime and we are feeling hungry. Which part of the body of this organism? It's the stomach which gets empty, which has that empty thing, and it feels hungry. So can the stomach satiate its own hunger? क्या वो अपनी भूख खुद बुझा सकता है? नहीं. क्या करेगा वो? Through the nervous system, a signal will be sent to the brain. फिर क्या ब्रेन उसकी भूख मिटा सकता है? ब्रेन क्या करेगा? इट विल सेंड अ सिग्नल टू दी आईज, लुक फॉर फूड, देन द आईज विल ले themselves on say a food item, ये रहा सेब। तो क्या आंख उसकी भूख मिटा सकते हैं? फिर हाथ जाएंगे, सेब को ग्रैब करेंगे, माउथ कैविटी में डालेंगे, सलाइवा प्रोड्यूस होगा, टीथ विल डू देयर थिंग, देन आई थिंक ईसोफेगस, द फूड पाइप, राइट, एंड तब जाके स्टमक की भूख मिटेगी। So many parts of the organism, they have to cooperate and coordinate their activities so that पेट की भूख मिट सके। This is harmony. There is coordination of activities, there is cooperation, and there is no, all these parts of the organism, they are working for what? The well-being or detriment of the organism? For the well-being, maintenance, and growth of the organism. I can use these hands to defend myself, but कभी ये घूसा इस गाल पे पड़ेगा? कभी नहीं पड़ेगा, है ना? क्यों? Because ये इसी organism का हिस्सा है। Are you with me? So this is what harmony means, friends. When we say there is harmony of structure and function in an organism, biology की बात कर रहे हैं अभी, purely society पे नहीं आए. It simply means that different parts of the organism, they are doing certain tasks for its well-being, and in performing those tasks, there is cooperation, interdependence, and interaction between the different parts of the organism. Clear? Now, let us read the sentence again. Society is like an organism possessing harmony of structure and function. तो जिस तरह से हमने देखा organism में there is harmony of structure and function, इसी तरह से there is harmony in society. So जैसे organism के different parts होते हैं, उसी तरह society के भी different parts होते हैं. What are those different parts of the society? You know it. बिल्कुल, the various social institutions. These are the different parts of the society. ठीक है? Arbitrarily arranged है, or there is a definitive arrangement, there's a definitive structure, there's a definitive way in which these parts are organized. There's a definitive way, and these different parts are performing. For example, education system का कोई well defined structure है या नहीं है जिसका आप पार्ट हो? है, clearly एक यूनिवर्सिटी होती है जिसका एक एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन होता है with the VC at the top and so on and so forth. बकायदा एक वेल डिफाइंड स्ट्रक्चर है, आर्बिट्ररी नहीं है कि आपने एजुकेटर्स और स्टूडेंट्स को साथ में बिठा दिया और यूनिवर्सिटी या एजुकेशन सिस्टम बन गया. आर यू विद मी? सो एक क्लियरली वेल लेड आउट स्ट्रक्चर है, एंड दीज डिफरेंट पार्ट्स और डिफरेंट सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशंस आर परफॉर्मिंग डिफरेंट functions. What functions do they perform? Like the human eye sees and the stomach digests food. What does the family do for the society? Function matlab it is doing something which is for the benefit, for the well-being, growth, maintenance of the society as a whole. Are you with me? So what is the function of the family? Family क्या कर रही है समाज के लिए, जिससे समाज का फायदा हो रहा है, जिससे समाज चलता रहता है, उसको बेनिफिट होता है. At its most fundamental level, reproduction. No samaj can continue to exist without some mechanism for reproduction. बच्चे नहीं होंगे तो समाज आगे कैसे बढ़ेगा? तो बच्चे कौन देता है समाज को? फैमिली देती है. One of the most basic functions of the family is reproduction. Is that the only thing the family does, or does it do any other thing as well? Sorry? Nurturing the young. Do we have any specialized term in sociology we can use for nurturing? Socialization. Yesterday we had come across this term, socialization. And when the family does it, we call it primary socialization. Socialization simply means simply being taught the ways of the society. Primary socialization क्यों कहते हैं family करती है? Because it's literally the first learnings that we get, the basics of human living, potty training, language, etc. So these are some functions of the family. We'll discuss more of these functions if there are any as we proceed. But you get the drift? How family is contributing or benefiting the society, those are its functions. What is the function of whoever? Say political system? Or are they largely dysfunctional? Politicians receive a lot of flack. They are seen as corrupt and whatnot. Rabble rousers or everything. But does the political system as a whole perform any functions? Or how is it beneficial for the society? समाज के लिए क्या कर रहा है? एक एक करके. Raise your hands and speak. Raise your hand and speak. Not speak and raise your hand. Legislate कर रहा है. So they are framing the laws which will govern the lives of all. Absolutely. और क्या कर रहा है political system? हाँ बिल्कुल, सोशल वेलफेयर के लिए भी पॉलिसीज बनाते हैं. सो मेनी थिंग्स. ठीक है. इकोनॉमी, व्हाट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ द इकोनॉमी? टू जनरेट मनी. मनी इज अ मीडियम. करता क्या है इकोनॉमी? मनी इज अ मीडियम थ्रू विच इकोनॉमिक ट्रांजैक्शंस टेक प्लेस ना ब्रदर. टू फैसिलिटेट एक्सचेंज ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज. ट्रेड मतलब वाई ओनली ट्रेड, है ना? मेरे को आपसे कुछ चाहिए, आपको मुझसे चाहिए. एक्सचेंज कैसे होगा? इन द इकोनॉमिक सिस्टम. हाँ, तो आई एम नॉट डिसएग्रीइंग विद दैट. मतलब तो आप बट करके क्यों कह रहे हो? नहीं, आपकी बात बिल्कुल सही है. देयर इज अ डिमांड एंड सप्लाई इन द करंट काइंड ऑफ इकोनॉमी दैट वी हैव. हाँ, सॉरी. Or let me put it broadly, more broadly, it contributes to innovation of various sorts. Okay? So people create new things so in order to sell them and make money, right? So you have scientific innovations which are also an outcome or a byproduct, some would say, of the economic system, right? बिल्कुल. और एजुकेशन सिस्टम का क्या फंक्शन है, इफ एनी? नौकरी लग जाए बस. बिल्कुल सही बात है ना? Why trivialize? But a very important function is to ensure employment or ensure skilling for employment. That's what the education system does. It imparts you the requisite knowledge, skills to make you employable, है ना? और उसके अलावा, sorry, clever and correct, secondary socialization. तो पहले लर्निंग हमें फैमिली से मिलती है, फिर बहुत कुछ हम एजुकेशन सिस्टम के थ्रू सीखते हैं, थ्रू टीचर्स, एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स इन स्कूल्स एंड कॉलेजेस एंड सो ऑन. पीयर्स, थ्रू पीयर्स आल्सो वी लर्न अ लॉट, है ना? एब्सोल्युटली. ठीक है. व्हाट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ रिलीजन? इज इट फंक्शनल एट ऑल, पर्टिकुलरली इन टुडेज डिवाइसिव टाइम्स? हाँ, सॉरी. बिल्कुल. It inculcates a sense of morality, a shared morality amongst its adherents. बिल्कुल. So these are some of the functions of different social institutions. ठीक है. Now, while performing these functions, are these social institutions interconnected or working in isolation? Do they affect each other? Interconnected? How? For example, yes. Okay. ठीक है. Very specific example, but right nonetheless. He's giving the example of dalda ghee, which was found to be have some pig oil or something, pig fat. Okay, and so people switched because of their religious considerations. They switched to fortune. Okay, so almost seems like a endorsement, but nonetheless. Okay, so point is, we discussed how religious behavior affects economic activity, right? In fact, a very detailed study regarding how religious views of a people affect their economic behavior was made by, you know him, Weber. Really, it so happens to be. So he discussed how certain Christian values have contributed to the emergence of modern capitalism. We'll talk about it later. Okay? Or you look at yourself now on Hindu त्योहार, क्या होता है तुम्हारा? सोना चांदी कब खरीदते हैं? धनतेरस पे, है ना? या you have this buying festivals on Diwali and Christmas and whatnot, right? A lot of things. Or what I may not buy. I will, as a Hindu, practicing Hindu, I will not buy beef, for instance, right? And so on. So religion affects economy. Education system, economy affects education system, and vice versa, right? So why are people studying engineering? क्यों पढ़ी आप सबने? ताकि इंजीनियर की नौकरी लग जाए. साफ बात है. So engineering degree is to equip you with knowledge and skills required for performing your role in the economy. ठीक है? और जैसे जैसे इकोनॉमी में चेंजेस होंगे, एजुकेशन सिस्टम में भी चेंजेस होंगे. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, now you have new technological developments like artificial intelligence or blockchain. So you will now have new courses in the education system teaching these new things. Yes or no? Fully interconnected in the sense different social institutions will have impact on each other in varying degrees. No denying that, right? No denying that, absolutely. Education and religion, are they interconnected or not? Yes, they are. I like this line of thinking, and it is very, should I say, common. And to some extent, I also agree with it. He's saying, जब हम educate हो जाएंगे, तो हम religious कम हो जाएंगे. How many of you it resonates with how many of us? Raise your hands. That, as you become more educated, you tend to get less religious somewhat. Please raise your hands if you somewhat agree with that statement. Some of my students commented to me, कि sir, आप इतने पढ़े आप religious हो. They found it a contradiction in terms. So it also depends on the kind of education one receives, right? Or how education views religion, what education system teaches about religion. Okay? One of my very close students, he cleared this year. He told me कि sir, मैं पहले बहुत devout Hindu था. Sociology ने वो मुझसे छीन लिया. And I felt so guilty about it. I can't tell you. Another student, 2 years back. So he belonged to the Brahmin community. And after we had studied a fair bit of sociology paper 2 and caste system, etc., one day he came to me in the evening and he said कि sir, मैंने अपना जनेऊ काट के फेंक दिया. I have felt so guilty, whenever I've come across. And he said it with a matter of kind of pride, or he was like, crediting me with that. And I felt so guilty. Yes, brother. So see, whether that relationship is one of animosity, one of mutual contradiction, mutual reinforcement, the relationship between, say, religion and education, that will vary with time and space. The more important point for the purpose of this discussion is that they affect each other. There is a connection between religion and the education system. Likewise, there is a connection. Is there a connection, say, in a secular polity like ours? Is there a connection between religion and the political system? हमारे सामने साक्षात है मोदी जी, है ना? बिल्कुल. हाँ. Of course, for every point of view one expresses, there is always a counterpoint. There is always a counter view. So there's always subject to criticisms, no doubt. Okay? So point is, friends, different social institutions are interconnected. right? They are performing various functions for the well-being of the society as a whole. ठीक है, इसीलिए कॉम्टे ने क्या कहा, सोसाइटी इज लाइक एन ऑर्गेनिज्म possessing harmony of structure and function. Clear? This is what we call the organic analogy of society. क्या बोलते हैं इसको? Organic analogy. Analogy मतलब एक पैरेलल ड्रॉ करना, एक कंपैरिजन ड्रॉ करना. ऑर्गेनिक एनालॉजी मतलब सोसाइटी इज हियर बीइंग कंपेयर्ड टू एन ऑर्गेनिज्म, राइट? फैमिली और एजुकेशन सिस्टम के बीच में कोई लिंकेज, इंटरकनेक्शन है? क्या है? अच्छे बच्चे, अच्छे वाले यानी ओबीडियंट, obedience, huh? Well mannered. So family produces well mannered. Manners are taught by family, and then those are carried on in the education system, you say. बिल्कुल. Manners से लेके फीस तक कौन देता है? फैमिली देती है ना? बिल्कुल. पहली एजुकेशन हमारी किससे होती है? फैमिली से होती है. So point is, different social institutions are interconnected and interdependent. They're working together in tandem for the well-being of the whole, WHOLE, whole society. ठीक? चलिए, another aspect of social life, we'll wrap up, but it will take a bit. Okay, so if anybody has another class, feel free. एक बात बताइए, किसी भी समाज में, in any society, a society is characterized by sameness or differences. Which of the two necessarily characterizes life in a given society? Sameness. Every society, friends, is characterized by certain similarities or commonalities amongst its members. Commonality or similarities of what? क्या चीज सिमिलर होती हैं amongst the members of a society? At a very basic level, very important, language. If a people do not speak the same language, they cannot communicate or exchange views with each other, interact with each other. So at a very basic level, members of a society will share same language. They may also share similar or same religious views. They may belong to the same religion. Ways of dressing, food habits, so on and so forth. And this sameness, these similarities are necessary, friends. Why? Because only then living together in harmony is possible. When people have, when they agree upon the basics. When I see you do something and that is quite like what I do, then I'm in agreement with you. And that is quite necessary if you and I, we have to live peacefully, coexist together in the same space. Okay? So a society is necessarily characterized by sameness. Only sameness? Also, equally important, every society is also characterized by differences. So please write, every society, if you've not written already, is characterized by both sameness and differences. Why are different? So are differences detrimental to social life? Are we saying differences hote hain but they are detrimental to social life, or are they also useful for living together? Are they beneficial? Differences. Are differences beneficial in any way? They are beneficial and they are necessary. Why? Because then people can complement each other. If everybody is alike, then nobody can offer anything else to the other. So, cooperation, complementing is possible only amongst people with differences. For example, differences of sex. You need both sexes and their cooperation in sexual intercourse for production of babies. Yes or no? अगर आदमी औरत के डिफरेंसेस नहीं होंगे तो समाज आगे कैसे चलेगा? तो आदमी के पास एक्स क्रोमोसोम होता है? नहीं, दोनों होते हैं. नहीं, एक्स वाई होते हैं आदमी के पास, और लेडी के पास एक्स होते हैं. You get it, right? So both have different makeup and they complement each other, and that leads to furtherance of the human race. And it's not just about sexual differences in terms of skills. So people are good at different things. मुझे सोशियोलॉजी आती है तो मैं सोशियोलॉजी पढ़ा दूंगा, आपको इंजीनियरिंग आती है, आप कंप्यूटर ठीक कर दो. I mean, sorry, but I know that's such a bad cliche being carried over, है ना? आपको अकाउंटेंसी आती है, आप अकाउंट्स कर दो. आप सुरक्षा में हो, आप डिफेंस कर दो. आपको प्रधानमंत्री आती है, आप वो कर दो, and so on and so forth. Are you with me? So people have different skills, different knowledge, different interests, different sexes. All these differences are also very vital for social life. Only then is division of labor possible. कि मुझे जो आता है मैं कर लूंगा, आप जो कर सकते हो आप वो कर लो. Clear? And both are important for society. Next. Every society, I know I'm testing your patience, but every society has its own very important word in our discipline. है English का ही, like most others, has its own culture. What is culture? Normal English word, forget sociology. Again, what is culture in your everyday normal English usage of the term? इतना डिफिनिशनलाइज क्यों कर रहे हो चीज को? एक्सप्लेन कर दो सिंपली, कल्चर क्या है? वे ऑफ लाइफ, वे ऑफ लिविंग, हाउ वी लिव. So what does it include? Himanshu is saying it is the traditional way of life. How many of you would agree with that? Is culture the traditional way of life of a people? He's saying it's an evolving concept. It's not necessarily traditional. It can change. Okay, so tell me which of the following is a part of our culture. Okay. Language, Hindi language. Is it a part of our culture? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Worship of Durga Ma. Is it a part of our culture? Religion, religious beliefs and practices, is that a part of culture? Okay. Living in apartments, is that a part of our culture? No. Huh? That seems to be the broad tone and tenor. Living in apartments is not a part of our culture. ठीक है. Using WhatsApp, is that part of a culture? No? No. Wearing kurta pajama, is it a part of our culture? Wearing jeans and t-shirt, is that a part of our culture? Yes or no? Are you following our culture? Huh? When you're wearing what you are. English language, in which we are all communicating? Is it a part of our culture? Yes or no? Absolutely right. He's saying traditionally no, but aaj ke time pe it is, at least for a segment of the society. Please appreciate. You know, when we use the term culture, we often have this, like who mentioned, like Gaurav mentioned, that, you know, it is traditional or how things were in our society. It's not that. It is how things were or are in our society. It is, as she very beautifully described, it is the way of living of a people. And culture is, friends, a very all-encompassing term. It includes literally everything. It includes food habits. It includes religious beliefs. It includes the way of dressing. It also includes technology that we use. It includes architecture forms. It includes dance, music. सब part of culture है. लिखिए. According to E.B. Tyler, culture is that complex whole, WHOLE of course. Culture is that complex whole which includes knowledge, beliefs, art, morals, customs, and any other capabilities acquired by man, and any other capabilities acquired by man as a part of society. As a part of society. Clear? तो भाषा से लेके टेक्नोलॉजी तक, डांस, ड्रामा, आर्किटेक्चर फॉर्म्स, रिलीजियस बिलीव्स, पॉलिटिकल आइडियोलॉजीज, सब कुछ आर पार्ट ऑफ कल्चर. क्लियर? देन वन मे वंडर व्हाट इज नॉट कल्चर. अगर कल्चर में सभी कुछ आ गया तो आई मीन हाउ डू यू डिफाइन, यू नो, समथिंग व्हिच इज ऑल एनकंपासिंग, या कुछ तो हो जो ना हो कल्चर, तभी तो हम समझेंगे इन कॉन्ट्रास्ट की व्हाट इज कल्चर. Can you think what could be the, should I say, the opposite of culture? Or what is not a part of culture? What would be its opposing term? Sorry? Tribe. Crime. नहीं. Stigmas. Culture का opposite होता है nature. Simply put, friends, culture is everything that is man-made. ठीक है? ये कुर्ता किसने बनाया? इंसान ने बनाया. ये पेन किसने बनाया? इंसान ने बनाया. ये भाषा किसने बनाई? इंसान ने बनाई. भगवान किसने बनाया? भगवान माफ करे पर इंसान ने बनाया. ठीक? रिलीजियस बिलीव्स, एनीथिंग, सब किसका बनाया हुआ है? इंसान का बनाया हुआ है. तो दीज आर ऑल अ पार्ट ऑफ कल्चर ऑफ अ सोसाइटी. क्लियर? पर्वत किसने बनाए? इंसान ने नहीं बनाए. दे आर पार्ट ऑफ नेचर. नदियां किसने बनाई? नेचर. पशु पक्षी किसने बनाए? नेचर. दीज आर ऑल अ पार्ट ऑफ नेचर. क्लियर? So culture is that which is man-made, and it is typically passed down from one generation to another. But that does not mean, friends, that culture is static or set in stone. culture, as some of you rightly pointed out, it evolves with time. Okay? You know, there are some people who oppose, like I remember there was a time in 1990s when in urban India, places like Delhi and Mumbai, we started celebrating Valentine's Day. We matlab the youth, or we were young then, right? And then there were some social groups, politico-social groups like Shiv Sainiks in Mumbai. They would catch young couples and say Valentine's Day is not a part of our culture. Okay? And they are spoiling Indian culture. What do you say? Were they right if you were to analyze this statement of the Shiv Sainiks sociologically? Is Valentine's Day a part of our culture? In fact, Bapu, Asaramji, he in fact suggested that 14th of February should be celebrated instead as Matri Pitri Vandan Divas. Okay, as a day of celebrating our love for our parents. That is our culture. So what do you make of it? Yeah, you were saying, Bitya, something? I heard some. Were our Shiv Sainiks and Bapu, Asaram Bapu, right on this count? एक नई चीज आ रही है, absolutely, because these guys, they were having this very ossified or stuck in the past kind of a view of culture. Culture is the way of life of a people, which necessarily, clearly, always is evolving. Okay, so Valentine's Day celebrations have become a part of culture for at least a small segment of the urban population in India. Okay, possibly those not even, I would say urban, but you know, those living in the metros, etc. But for a small segment, it has become a part of culture. तो कल्चर वो नहीं होता जो पहले करते थे, कल्चर वो भी है जो हम आज करते हैं. तो व्हाट्सएप इज अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर कल्चर. प्लीज अप्रिशिएट. ठीक है, ये एयर कंडीशनिंग इज अ पार्ट ऑफ आवर कल्चर. बाहर जो गर्मी और धूप है, दैट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ नेचर. ठीक है. वो एक कल्चरल चेंज है ना, समाज में बदलाव आ रहा है. ठीक है. ये बताओ, गौ माता, गौ माता इज अ पार्ट ऑफ नेचर और अ पार्ट ऑफ कल्चर? बिल्कुल, एब्सोल्युटली, बैंग ऑन द मार्क. गौ बिलोंग्स टू द वर्ल्ड ऑफ नेचर, बट द आइडिया ऑफ गौ माता or worshipping cow as mother goddess, that is a part of Hindu culture. Clear? इसी तरह the river flowing through the Himalayas is a part of nature, but Ganga Maiya is a part of a culture, the reverence for Ganga Maiya. Clear? Ralph Linton, लिखो ना बिटिया. Ralph Linton writes that the culture of a society is the way of life of its members. Is the way of life of its members. Simply लोगों के जीने का तौर तरीका होता है culture. ठीक है? So every society has its own culture. But when we say every society has its own culture, it doesn't mean कि सब societies का एकदम अलग अलग ही होगा. Because there is cultural transmission. There is cultural contact between societies. There is transmission of cultural elements from one society to another. WhatsApp हमने बनाया क्या? Facebook हमने बनाया क्या? पर इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं ना धड़ल्ले से. बाहर से आया and हम we've adopted that as a part of our daily way of life. ठीक है? That is about society and culture. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. शुक्रिया is not a part of our culture. धकियानुसी विचार है ना. चलिए 1 सेकेंड मेरे बेटे. Thank you, friends. जी बेटा, you were saying something. So, ask me tomorrow in class for the benefit of everybody, because if I answer it right now, then others will lose out on the explanation. Huh? I would like to take it up for everybody. है ना? एक सेकंड रुकिए. एक सेकंड, आप इधर आ जाओ बेटे. हाँ, बताओ क्या कह रहे हैं आप?